What's up, beautiful people? Ari Friedman with Sunshine Health and Fitness here. Wanted to take a couple minutes to talk about stress relief. I felt like it might be a good time since we're on Thanksgiving Eve here and on the kind of the cusp of the holiday season. A couple quick announcements. This is uh, kind of the start day or launch day of our Black Friday special at Sunshine Health and Fitness. And so this is the lowest intro cost that we do for the entire year. It's basically 90% off. We are selling $100 gift cards for only $10. So for just $10, you can get $100 worth of services, and you can use that on personal training, nutritional counseling, life coaching, semi-private training, or our mobile wellness programs, or some combination of all of them. So it's a great opportunity for a low price point to give our services a try. We are running this special until Black Friday, which is the next 2 days. So it'll be done in 2 days, or if we run out of the gift cards beforehand, we have a set number of them, and as soon as they're gone, they're gone. The next announcement is that a week from this Friday, we are having our health and fitness holiday party in conjunction with Balance Bar, Pilates and Bar Studio and Core Fitness Health Club in Highland Plaza in Newtown. We're going to have a variety of different sample classes, wine tasting, some pizza samples from the now award-winning Bleecker Street, Lions Bleecker Street, which is in Highland Plaza, and a variety of giveaways as well that we're really excited about. So hopefully you guys can come and join us for that. And so without further ado, let's talk about stress relief a little bit. Some of the things I'm going to talk about here as far as interventions to help relieve stress are things that I've done myself. I've had a variety of instances in the past, both acute and chronic, that have had to do with stress, anxiety, and depression. It's not something that I dive into with too many people unless I feel like it's something that could help others relate in excuse me, in helping them achieve kind of a more well-rounded mind frame as it pertains to the things in their life that are causing them stress or anxiety and depression. So the interventions that we'll talk about a little bit towards the end here are all things that I've done and found very helpful myself. But let's get started by talking about different kinds of stress. The first thing is acute stress, and this is the most common form of stress. It comes from demand and pressure of recent events that we're having, things that we're looking forward to, or things that have just happened in our not so far past. So if we're thinking about Thanksgiving, it's coming up tomorrow, and if there's a lot of things we need to get done in the next couple days or during the holiday season, it's a very common time to be looking at acute stress. Acute stress can kind of spiral into more chronic forms of stress, so it's something that we want to watch out for. In small doses, things like skiing, playing a sport, going on a roller coaster, this is actually a form of acute stress. And in small doses, it can actually be thrilling. It can be good for you. It releases endorphins and things like that. They become exciting in the beginning, but what happens as we do it, if you ever go on like a roller coaster or something, and it seems great at first, but then you're kind of exhausted at the end of the day from not really doing anything but going on roller coasters, what happens is that later on, you feel very tired throughout at the end of the day, and this is due to the psychological distress, excessive hormone release of that stress hormone, as opposed to the physical strain of just actually being on a roller coaster. And so these stress hormones do have a very strong physical effect on us. In most people, things that they need to get done and didn't complete are stressors. Simple things like, oh, I need to get the laundry done, I need to get the car fixed, I need to get the kids somewhere. These are all triggers for acute stress. It's usually short term, and it's not something that's severe enough to cause any kind of long-term damage. But it is something you want to be aware of, because when it is recurring, it can become chronic and it can cause some issues. Listen to a couple of symptoms here. So, symptoms of acute distress are things like anger, anxiety, depression, again in an acute fashion. Muscle tension. So if you find yourself every couple of weeks or during stressful situations getting headaches, jaw pain, um, back pain, which will lead to injury of certain muscle groups if you pull your back out, um, issues with tendons, ligaments. Stress hormone affects all of these things pretty strongly. I know for myself, I have a lot of issues with my jaw. I hold a lot of stress in my jaw from squeezing my jaw really tight, and in turn, it causes a variety of issues with my neck and head, and it's what contributes to migraines that have gotten a lot more common in the past, and I've learned to deal with a little bit now in the present, and hopefully looking forward into the future. But these things compound over time, as you can see. Some other symptoms are GI distress, heartburn, excessive acid in the gut, irritable bowel syndrome, so IBS. All of these things can be a symptom of excessive stress hormone being excreted. Increased blood pressure, shortness of breath, like I said, migraines, things like hot and cold flashes, dizziness, sweating, chest pain, palpitations. Okay, a lot of times if it isn't something you address, you'll have like a panic attack and won't know what it is. You'll feel like you're dying. I know several people that have gone to the hospital because they think they're having a heart attack or they think something terrible is happening, and it's a panic attack. This is not something that's talked about enough when it comes to how seriously stress can affect our bodies. All right. On the other hand, there are forms of good stress from an acute standpoint. Examples of good stress would be things like exercise, manual labor, being outside, doing work. Controlled exposure to extreme heat or extreme cold releases things called heat shock proteins and a variety of other hormones and antibodies that are very good for the body. Their body responds in a way that's very good for you. Creating this stress in a controlled environment does provide stress relief because it allows your body to produce stress relief hormones in that controlled environment. Whereas, as we'll talk about in a minute, when it keeps on building and it is an acute thing, then it is a lot more difficult for our bodies to kind of scavenger for the negative effects that the stress is having on us. Okay? Bad forms of acute physical stress would be things like lack of sleep or travel. All right, your body has a really hard time recovering from these kinds of things, so that's something to keep in mind again during the holiday season if your sleep patterns are out of whack or if you're traveling a lot. And that doesn't just have to do with traveling on a plane. Car counts as well, and the reason that this causes stress to the body is because we are focused on a variety of different things, having to, look at the road, look at signs, control a vehicle, things like that. And the other major aspect of that is that you're sitting down in the same position for an extended period of time. Anytime your body is stuck in the same position for a very long period of time, it causes stress to it, a great deal of it actually, because you're basically casting your body in a specific position, and the human body is meant to be as mobile as possible. The more mobile we are, the better it is for our body and our psychology. Okay? Then there are things like acute chemical stress. This comes from things like drugs, alcohol, caffeine, smoking, environmental pollutants, cleaning products, pesticides would be another one. All of these things are forms of acute stress that do affect our bodies both physically, which is what we're talking about here, but they actually can affect your body psychologically, since there's such a close relationship between the body and the mind. Okay, if we talk about acute stress from a nutritional standpoint. If we eat things like hot and spicy foods, this can actually be very good for us. This can be very good for your body, putting your body under that kind of stress. But then when we have things like allergic reactions or deficiency of things like vitamins and minerals, this is a nutritional distress or stress that our body is under that is not good for us. So as you can see, there is a kind of a wide variety of things here. Okay. Next, let's talk about kind of the next step up here, which is episodic acute stress, which I think is something that a lot of people deal with as well. And this is just frequent forms of acute stress. So it's becoming a more regular thing. Okay. This comes often when you take on too much at once. You're not very organized with things, and you self-inflict pressures on yourself, demands on yourself, and this sets you up for a constant failure. You're constantly not able to get done all the things that you need to get done, and there is this snowball effect of acute physical and psychological stress. There's a couple of different types, and listen to these things because they may be characteristics that you recognize in yourself or other people, and recognizing that it's an issue is kind of the first step to addressing it. All right, people that are very type A, all right, if you're always in a hurry, if you find that you or people you know are abrupt, okay, they're very short with you, short-tempered or impatient, all right, for these folks, relationships can deteriorate over time because of their attitude and because of their shortness and their inability to be empathetic. All right, the workplace environment can become very stressful. These individuals are more prone to things like cardiac arrest, coronary artery disease. They become more angry and hostile. They're more prone to things like anxiety and depression over the long term. And again, this is all because of frequent episodes of acute stress. Okay, it affects the decisions we make, and so it affects our lifestyle very greatly. All right, the other side of the spectrum there, so if we have someone that's type A, the other side of the spectrum is someone that is a chronic worrier. Okay, worrying about everything. They catastrophize everything. They see the worst case scenario around every corner. These individuals are more anxious. Depression is more frequent in these individuals as opposed to being angry or hostile. Anxiety or depression is more frequent. And you can see that on each end of the spectrum, each extreme, whether it's a type A person that's very short and they're very outward, or as opposed to a chronic worrier that's very inward, neither of them are great for you. All right, they both are going to promote times of or symptoms of frequent acute stress. Speaking of symptoms, these symptoms are typically more persistent than individuals that are having acute stress. So frequent acute stress is going to be the same symptoms as acute stress, but it is going to be more persistent. So think about our tension headaches or migraines, high blood pressure, chest pain, heart disease, things like that. All of these things are going to compound over time. And treatment does take time because it's ingrained and it becomes a habit in people, and they usually don't see like there's anything wrong with them. They always have a reason that they are type A, or they have a reason that they worry about everything. They can usually stick it to something that's happened in their past. Oh, I worry so much because XYZ happened here and I was right in this scenario, and so I need to worry about everything else that comes. Or I was right about this scenario, where this person didn't get this thing done, and so I need to take on everything. I need to take on the entire load for people that are type A. And so it very much is ingrained in how people see the world and how they conduct their lives. All right. And they're blaming external events for the symptoms that they have. Most of these people are very resistant to change because they see this as who they are. It's just part of their lives. It's not to say that they can't change, and like I said, if any of these things sound like they are you or someone close to you that you know, recognizing it is kind of the first step to addressing something like this. And since we are talking about symptoms that can be pretty serious, like heart disease, high blood pressure, it is something that you'll want to address, okay? Lastly, we have chronic stress. So this is where things get rather serious. Most people don't have chronic stress. They may think that they do, but a lot of the time it's just frequent acute stress or persistent forms of acute stress, because chronic stress becomes, well, chronic stress basically comes when you have ongoing stress to your body and mind. It's a symptom of your everyday environment. If you live in extreme poverty, if you come from a very dysfunctional family, if you're in a very unhappy marriage or relationship, if you hate your career or your job and it's something that you spend your entire day on, if you look at conflicts in the Middle East, ethnic or cultural rivalries, things like that, these things are examples of chronic stress, where it's just a part of your lifestyle to have extreme burdens of stress, okay? This kind of stress is brought on when it seems as though there is no way out of the perceived misery of your life. All hope seems lost. There's unrelenting demands or pressure that just continue on an ongoing basis. And so a lot of people feel like they, in our lives, we live very fortunate lives, at least most of us that are listening to this, we feel like we have chronic stress, and while it may feel like we do have perhaps chronic forms of acute stress, it's not as bad as a lot of people have it. Chronic stress can stem from trauma in our early childhood that becomes internalized, and a lot of it has to do with one's view of the world or their internalized belief system. This plays a huge role. If someone's belief system is saying something like the world is a threatening place, okay, or people will discover that I'm fake, okay, if this is something that you're living by, this forms chronic stress. People that are thinking things like you have to be perfect all the time, people need to perceive you as perfect all the time, or people that for whatever reason think that they don't deserve happiness. If they're constantly thinking these things, if they constantly perceive these things to be true, it's a very, very powerful form of chronic stress to your body, both physically and psychologically. Typically, these individuals require professional help to reformulate their entire belief system. The worst aspect is that people get used to this. They get used to this chronic form of stress, and they forget that there's anything wrong with it. All right? It becomes familiar and it becomes comfortable. And they think that living that way is the only way to live. Long-term symptoms of acute stress are things like violence toward others, suicide, heart attack, stroke. Things like cancer can be brought on from excessive stress hormone or stress to the body. What happens is people are worn down until they hit a breaking point, and if not given treatment, serious treatment, due to a total depletion of both their mental and physical resources, then these bad things do happen. And we see it because our news and media doesn't like us to go a day without realizing the response to things like acute stress. All of the terrible things they want us to think are the only things that are happening in our world, when there are actually a lot of good things happening in our world. I won't get on a soapbox or anything here, but anyway, let's talk about a variety of things we can do to relieve stress, since that's what most people want, right? We're heading into the holiday season. We know we're going to be filled with a lot of different kinds of things that are going to promote stress. So let's talk for a minute here about ways to relieve stress. First and foremost, Proper exercise and diet are key. Exercise, like we said, is a way to promote a good form of acute stress. Diet can be a way to relieve stress or promote a good form of acute stress, depending on what you're eating. These are really, really important things. And they are things that anybody can do. Just going for a walk, something as simple as that. I spoke in the last little chat that I did last week about the importance of prioritizing and scheduling your exercise and dietary habits. The same way that you schedule a doctor's appointment, you need to schedule your habits. And you need to make sure that they are a priority, because if they're not, it's just going to be another thing that you don't get to. And you're just going to get to the other things that are a priority to you, but you're not going to put as much time and energy into them because you have something else that isn't a priority that's there and you're just doing it haphazardly. Okay? So proper exercise and diet are a really, really powerful thing when it comes to relieving stress. Something else that I do is journaling. Now, this can be as simple as a morning or evening journal, which again is something that I mentioned last week and sent out to a couple people, which is just a way to practice getting in the right mind frame, and done over a period of time will help kind of rewire your brain and to see things differently. The template that I have for folks is a way to practice gratefulness and focus on the things that you want to accomplish throughout the day, or in the evening, focus on the things that went well during the day and set yourself up for a good day that follows that. Some people get a little bit more in depth and they'll do long journal entries. I think all that thing can be very positive. It's a way for you to be introspective, and we need to be introspective. We're not introspective enough. We need to kind of realize where our faults lie, but not stop there, because then we become negative toward ourselves. But we need to figure out where our weaknesses lie and then discover what to do about those things. So if we find ourselves to be someone, for instance, that worries about everything, so I'm a chronic worrier and you're writing down, I find myself worrying about everything, and you need to think, well, why were you worrying about that? Where does the root of worrying about it come from? And what is a more healthy and realistic way to think of that scenario? Okay? And so if you have a kid, for instance, and they're out at some party and you're worrying about them constantly, what is a pattern that you could create for yourself, a step-by-step pattern or a step-by-step habit, to make sure that you're not causing yourself so much stress about your child out doing what every other kid does and doesn't have anything bad happen to them, and they're just having a good time, right? There's way more scenarios where a kid goes to a party and they have a great time and nothing bad happens than the opposite. And so it takes up a lot of unnecessary physical and cognitive strain or emotional strain to sit there and only focus on the negative, when it's far more likely that nothing bad's going to happen, right? Another form of relief is open communication. Having a support system that you can openly communicate to is incredibly important. If you don't have it, I cannot strongly enough recommend talking to someone. I think that everybody should have some kind of coach, counselor, therapist, whatever you want to call it. There's sometimes a negative association with seeing a shrink or something like that. I think it's a positive thing. I think everybody should have someone, a third party that's unbiased, that they should be able to talk to about things that they may not be comfortable talking to other people about, or maybe they are comfortable talking to other people about it but may not have the time or the right environment to do it. If you have a set time and appointment to go see someone and just be talking about these things that are bothering you, or that may help you grow, or that you may not have time, or you may not make a priority to talk about with other people, with loved ones, it's a very positive thing. It's a very productive thing. It's something I've done and continue to do, and it's something that Sunshine does offer. We do offer life coaching, and I do have some people that I just do life coaching with. And the difference between life coaching and counseling and things like that is that life coaching helps you set up kind of a roadway or a pathway and put certain things into action and do certain exercises that will help you get to where you want to be from a physical or mental standpoint. Okay? And so you're able to talk about these things and get these things out and then figure out an action plan on how to fix them, how to address them. Okay? Pattern interruption is a really important one. It's one that we do in life coaching pretty regularly, and that is done in different kinds of therapies or counseling as well. And this is anything that just interrupts your mind frame that is affecting you negatively. A really good example is everyone, I'm sure, has gone through the day with like a headache or something, or they felt miserable, and then all of a sudden they're like walking down the street and they see someone they haven't seen for a long time, and they're like, oh my god, hey, how you doing? It's been so long. And you guys catch up for a couple minutes, and for that brief period of time, the symptoms you were feeling, the physical symptoms, go away. All right? This is called a pattern interruption. And there are a variety of ways that it can be utilized to help relieve stress, either physical or psychological based stress. It's something that can be set up on an individual basis because you need to figure out what a positive form of pattern interruption might be. A lot of times, if I'm working with someone, we'll want to take the thing that is negatively affecting them and use something that will help to more positively associate that negative thing in their pattern interruption. But realistically, it can be anything. It can be something physical. I've seen some really creative things that people use. Physical things, whether it's, a very common one in like addiction is like snapping a rubber band on their wrist. Another common thing is just anything that you're touching or feeling, anything that creates a physical association to the emotional distress that you're in is more powerful. So you're connecting the two, the cognitive and the physical. This is actually something that we could dig into very deeply, but it gets a little bit more in depth and complex. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, drop me a line and I'll talk to you about it a little bit. Another great form of stress relief is massage or myofascial release. Myofascial release is something that I talk about with my clientele. A lot of people don't understand it. It's really just kind of a form of very targeted massage. All right, the fascia it's something that makes up our muscle. All right, I don't want to get too technical, but what you're doing is you're helping relieve very bound up fascia, and this helps our bodies in a variety of different ways. But I'm sure you've heard people, massage therapists, talk about holding in tension in certain areas. There's many aspects of this that are true, maybe not in certain realms that a lot of people think, but in a lot of ways we do hold stress in a certain area, and it will affect our body in a variety of different ways. And so being able to physically massage that out also affects our body in a variety of different ways. If you have one overstimulated musculature and you're able to relieve that area, it relieves or helps with different areas of the body that have been overcompensating and causing further stress to the body, and the stress to the body then causes mental strain, and therefore more easily will cause emotional distress. So massage or some kind of myofascial release. We do a lot of myofascial release at Sunshine. There's a variety of different techniques that can be used and tools that are very beneficial and a lot more cost-friendly than going out for a massage, because it's something you can do on your own. And then last, but certainly not least, is different kinds of breathing or meditation. There's a lot of different techniques here that can be very beneficial for folks. A great way to start is with some kind of brainwave therapy or guided meditation. I've done both, and it's what I typically recommend for people that are just getting started in this or have had trouble. Meditation has a lot of misconceptions. It's not clearing your mind, because that's really, really hard to do. It's almost like gaining a third-person perspective of what's going on in your head. So if your brain is constantly going crazy about something, it's being able to get a bird's eye view of what your brain is going crazy about, so that you can kind of start to settle it a little bit or understand why it's so fixed on what it's fixed on. A really good way to start with this is brainwave therapy. You can go on iTunes and just download some brainwave frequencies. Our brain is constantly has different frequencies that are going on depending on our state of mind. If we're very focused and awake, there's a certain frequency. If we're studying something, it's a certain frequency. If we're sleeping or meditating, there's a variety of different frequencies that our brain is in, and you can listen to certain frequencies that help to get your brain into a certain frequency. And so if you're looking to meditate, you can get certain kinds of meditation-based frequencies that will help to kind of settle the brain a little bit and just kind of allow you to relax and focus on whatever it is that you need to focus on, and kind of get that bird's eye view. Guided meditation is a great one as well. I'm a big fan of two main things that I recommend for folks. The first one is an app, and that one is called what is it? Headspace. Headspace. They have a free version, and then there's a very low-cost paid version that you can continue with, and it's a form of guided meditation that helps you both from a auditory standpoint and from a visual standpoint. So there's things you can watch as well that help you get into a meditative state to help relieve stress or focus on whatever it is that you need to focus on. Another one that I'm a big fan of is a woman called Bella Ruth Naparstek, and she's the one that I've used for a variety of things, and she has MP3 downloads you can get in the iTunes store, and they are focused on a particular symptom. So she'll have guided meditation specifically for like panic attacks, or for stress or depression, or for people that are chronically sick. She's got a whole library of guided meditation that is specifically for an acute issue. And then lastly, it's just different types of breathing exercises. There's things like box breathing, which is slow 4 seconds in, 4 seconds holding at the top, 4 seconds out, 4 seconds at the bottom. So it would be like and just repeating that. That was just one set, or one rep, basically, okay? Repeating that over and over again, so you start to control your breath. Your breathing pattern very much determines your psychology and hormone release too. A lot of us don't breathe properly or know how to breathe properly. There's different types of breathing. Expanding and relaxing the rib cage is very important. A lot of us have trouble with that due to our lifestyles. Our rib cages are very compressed. Being able to fully expand it so we can fully contract our lungs is a really important skill set to be able to perform. If you have questions about that, drop me a line, because that's a little bit more hands-on. I'm also a really, really big fan of a gentleman called Wim Hof. That's W-I-M is the first name, last name is H-O-F, nice short name. And he has a system that kind of combines breathing and exposure to cold. You don't have to do all of it. I've been practicing his system for about a year now and have found it to be incredible. It gives you a tremendous amount of energy and focus. The breathing methodologies that he has, the cold exposures, do a lot of excellent things, both from a psychological standpoint and from a physical standpoint, when it comes to hormone excretion and stress hormone, relieving stress hormone. And the breathing technique is almost challenging, but it has a lot of really great benefits. What it's actually doing is it's super saturating your cells with oxygen so that you get all the benefits from that. Just simple breathing exercises as well, counting your breaths, 3 slow breaths in, 3 slow breaths out, placing your hands in a certain position so you start to trigger the feeling of relaxation when you just place your hands there is very important. I know for me, if I'm laying down and doing meditation at night like I do, I have one hand on my abdomen, the other hand on my chest, so I can feel the rise and lower. And as soon as I do that, I'm able to kind of slip now into a relaxed state. So that's it, folks. That's it for now. There's obviously a lot more that can be talked about, both in terms of types of stress triggers as well as therapies for it, ways to relieve it. But our time is up for the time being. If any of you have any questions, please drop me a line. You can put it in the comments or you can private message me. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have. And just one more reminder, our Black Friday event is going, 1, until the end of Black Friday, or 2, until we run out of gift certificates. And that is $100 gift certificates for only $10. They make great stocking stuffers or gifts for the holidays. And it's 90% off, so it's the cheapest way to start adapting a healthy lifestyle for yourself or for somebody else that we do all year. Okay? Drop me a line if you're interested in that, and go ahead and register for our event next week. On Friday, we're doing our health and wellness holiday party. There's a whole bunch of free classes that we're doing, wine tasting, and food being provided by Lions Bleecker Street, who just won the award for Best Pizza in Newtown, which is really exciting for them. They're a great place, as is the wine place that we use. And this event is in conjunction at Sunshine Health and Fitness, Core Fitness Health Club, and Balance Pilates Bar Studio, kind of combining our efforts. The event is on Facebook somewhere, so go ahead and find that event and register for it so you save your spot. We do have limited room. And that's it. I hope everyone has a very safe and healthy and stress-free holiday season. We will be doing a couple of other workshops, both at Sunshine Health and Fitness and online, in the coming weeks during the holiday season, so stay tuned. All the best.